I am standing in our apartment, staring at the engagement ring sitting on the kitchen table. 3 years ago, I got down on one knee at Megan's favorite Italian restaurant. I remember her tears of joy, her whispered yes, the applause from strangers around us. I thought I had found the woman I would spend my entire life with. But 2 weeks ago she looked me straight in the eyes, laughed, and said something that shattered everything I believed about us. Before we dive into this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. And if stories about standing up for yourself and knowing your worth resonate with you, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Trust me, you are going to want to stick around to hear what happened when I gave her my answer and she thought it was funny. Let us get into it. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio, in what most people would call a typical middle-class family. My father worked as an electrician for over 30 years. He would come home with calloused hands and a tired smile, but he never complained. My mother was a registered nurse at the local hospital, pulling double shifts whenever the bills piled up. Together they taught me the value of hard work, humility, and living within your means. I was never the flashy kid in school. While other guys drove their parents' sports cars and wore designer clothes, I took the bus and shopped at discount stores. It never bothered me. My parents always said that real wealth is not about what you show the world but what you build in silence. After graduating from Ohio State with a degree in software engineering, I landed my first job at a small tech startup. The pay was modest, but I learned everything I could. I worked late nights, took on extra projects, and slowly built a reputation as someone who got things done without making a fuss about it. By the time I was 25, I had saved enough for a down payment on my first rental property, a small 2-bedroom apartment on the east side of Columbus. It was not glamorous, but it cash flowed from day one. A year later, I bought another one. Then I got recruited by a bigger company in Austin, Texas, and I made the move. When I arrived in Austin, I was earning a solid salary as a senior software developer. But I kept living like I was still making entry-level money. I drove a 10-year-old Honda Accord. I rented a modest 1-bedroom apartment even though I could have afforded much more. I invested the difference into index funds and kept my eye out for more real estate opportunities. By 32, I owned 3 rental properties, generating passive income that most people would not believe if I told them. But I never told anyone. Not my coworkers, not my friends, and certainly not the women I dated. I had seen too many relationships fall apart when money became the focus. I wanted someone who loved me for who I was, not for what I had in my bank account. That is the mindset I carried when I met Megan at a mutual friend's barbecue 4 years ago. She walked into that backyard like she owned the place, confident, beautiful, with this infectious energy that drew everyone toward her. She had long brown hair, bright green eyes, and a laugh that could light up any room. We started talking near the cooler of drinks, and I found myself genuinely captivated. Megan was 26 at the time, working as a marketing coordinator at a local advertising agency. She was ambitious, talkative, and seemed genuinely interested in my stories about growing up in Ohio and my work in tech. Our first date was at a quiet coffee shop downtown. We talked for 4 hours without realizing how much time had passed. The second date was dinner at a Thai restaurant, followed by a walk along the river. By the third date, I knew I was falling for her. The first year of our relationship was everything I had ever wanted. Megan would surprise me with homemade dinners after long days at work. She remembered every little detail I told her, from my favorite movie to the name of my childhood dog. On weekends, we would explore hiking trails around Austin, or just stay in and watch old comedies together. When I told her I was not into flashy lifestyles, she said she admired that about me. She said she was tired of guys who tried to impress her with expensive gifts and fancy cars. She wanted someone real, someone with substance. Those words meant everything to me. After a year of dating, we moved in together. A nice 2-bedroom apartment that we split down the middle. I paid my half from my regular salary, keeping my investments and rental income completely separate and private. It was not about hiding anything from her. I just believed that our relationship should be built on something deeper than money. 6 months after moving in together, I started planning the proposal. I wanted it to be perfect. I chose the Italian restaurant where we had our first fancy date together. I bought a 2-carat diamond ring with money I had saved specifically for this moment. I coordinated with the restaurant staff to have her favorite song playing when the moment came. That night, I got down on one knee in front of a room full of strangers. Megan gasped, tears streaming down her face, and whispered, "Yes," before I could even finish my question. The whole restaurant erupted in applause. I slid the ring onto her finger and felt like the luckiest man alive. We spent that night planning our future. The wedding would be in 18 months, giving us plenty of time to save and prepare. We talked about kids, about buying a house, about growing old together. I went to sleep that night genuinely believing that I had found my forever. But something shifted after the engagement. It was subtle at first, small comments here and there that I brushed off as wedding stress. One evening we were scrolling through social media when Megan stopped on a post from one of her college friends. The friend had just gotten engaged to some finance guy and was showing off her massive new house in the suburbs. Megan sighed heavily. "Why do not we have a house like that?" she asked. Her tone was light, almost joking, but there was an edge underneath it that I had not heard before. I explained my philosophy about not rushing into home ownership, about building equity slowly and making smart financial decisions. She nodded, but I could tell she was not really listening. A few weeks later, we were driving somewhere, and she looked at my Honda Accord with an expression I could not quite read. "Have you ever thought about getting a new car?" she asked. "Something nicer." I shrugged and said, "This one runs perfectly fine. Why would I spend money on something I do not need?" She did not respond, just turned to look out the window. Then came the mentions of Marcus. Marcus was a new account executive at her agency. She talked about him casually at first, just work stories about clients and campaigns. But I noticed that his name came up more and more frequently. Marcus closed this big deal. Marcus drives a Porsche. Marcus just moved into a penthouse downtown. Marcus took the whole team out to some fancy steakhouse. I told myself I was being paranoid. Megan loved me. She said yes to spending her life with me. Just because she mentioned a coworker did not mean anything was wrong. But the comments about our lifestyle did not stop. She started comparing everything we had to what other people had. Her friend's husband got promoted. Her cousin just bought a vacation home. Her coworker's boyfriend surprised her with a trip to Paris. I tried to reassure her that we were building something solid, that our time would come. But deep down, a small part of me started to wonder if the woman I fell in love with was changing, or if I was finally seeing who she really was all along. The night everything fell apart started like any other Tuesday. I came home from work exhausted from debugging a particularly stubborn piece of code. Megan was in the shower and her phone was sitting on the kitchen counter next to her purse. I was not the type to snoop. In 4 years together, I had never once looked through her messages or emails. I trusted her completely. But when her phone lit up with a notification, my eyes automatically glanced at the screen. The message was from Marcus. The preview showed just enough words to make my stomach drop. "Tonight I miss you already." I stood there frozen, my heart pounding against my ribs. It had to be a mistake. Maybe it was a group text and I was misreading the context. Maybe it was some inside joke from work that sounded worse than it was. I knew I should wait and talk to her. I knew looking through her phone was a violation of trust, but in that moment, with those words burning in my vision, I could not stop myself. I picked up the phone. Her password was still my birthday, which somehow made everything that came next hurt even more. The messages with Marcus went back 3 months. 3 months of flirting, of compliments, of conversations that grew increasingly intimate. She sent him photos that she had never sent me. He called her pet names that made me physically sick to read. But the message that broke something inside me was one she sent him just last week. "Ronnie is sweet," she wrote, "but he is just a safety net. You know what I mean. Something stable while I figure out what I really want. He has no ambition, no drive. He will never be more than what he is right now." Marcus responded with a laughing emoji and said, "So, when are you going to stop playing house with the boring boyfriend?" "Soon," she replied. "I just need to time it right." I heard the shower turn off. I placed her phone exactly where I found it, screen down, and walked over to the couch. My hands were shaking, but I forced myself to breathe. I needed to think. I needed a plan. Megan came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, her hair dripping wet. She smiled at me like nothing was wrong. "Hey babe," she said. "How was work?" "Fine," I replied. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. "Hey, can I ask you something?" She tilted her head, still smiling. "Sure, what is up? Who is Marcus to you?" The change in her expression was instantaneous. The smile faded, replaced by something guarded. "He is just a coworker," she said carefully. "Why?" "Just a coworker who misses you at night." Her eyes darted to her phone on the counter, then back to me. The realization washed over her face. "You went through my phone." I expected denial, tears, apologies, some attempt to explain or minimize what I had seen. Instead, I got something I never anticipated. She laughed. It was not a nervous laugh or an uncomfortable one. It was a bitter, dismissive sound that dripped with condescension. "So what if I have been talking to Marcus?" she said, crossing her arms. "Can you blame me? Look at us, Ronnie. Look at how we live. You make decent money, but you drive a car that is older than some of your coworkers. We rent an apartment when everyone our age is buying houses. You have no ambition, no drive to be anything more than you already are." I sat there in stunned silence as she continued. "Marcus is going places. He is hungry. He is not satisfied with just good enough. And he treats me like I deserve to be treated. He takes me to nice restaurants. He buys me gifts. He makes me feel special. I finally found my voice. So what am I? Just someone to pay half the rent until something better comes along." She rolled her eyes. "Do not be so dramatic. I care about you. But a woman has options, Ronnie." She paused, looking at me with something close to pity. "You think you are my only option?" The question hung in the air between us. I could feel her waiting for me to crumble, to beg, to promise I would change and become the man she wanted me to be. Instead, I looked her directly in the eyes and answered, "Nope. I never thought that." She blinked, clearly caught off guard. Then she started laughing again. "Okay, sure. You are going to find someone better than me." She gestured at the apartment, at my worn jeans and plain t-shirt. "Look at yourself. You make what, $3,000 a week? You live like a college student. What woman is going to choose you?" She had no idea. No clue about the rental properties generating passive income every month. No knowledge of the investment portfolio I had been building for years. No awareness that a competing company had been courting me for months with an offer that would triple my current compensation. She only saw what I showed the surface, and she decided that was all I was worth. I stood up slowly. I did not raise my voice or slam any doors. I simply looked at her and said, "You will see." Megan laughed again, waving her hand dismissively. "Whatever helps you sleep at night." That night I took a pillow and blanket to the couch. But I did not sleep. Instead, I spent hours on my phone sending emails and making plans. By the time the sun came up, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Over the next 2 weeks, I executed my plan with surgical precision. First, I called the company that had been trying to recruit me. They had been offering me a director of engineering position with a compensation package that would have made Megan's jaw drop. I had been declining because I valued stability and did not want to disrupt our life together. Now, stability no longer mattered. I accepted the offer. They wanted me to start in 3 weeks. Next, I contacted a real estate agent about finding a new apartment. Not just any apartment, but a penthouse unit in one of the nicest buildings downtown. The kind of place I could have always afforded but never felt the need to have. The rent was steep, but between my new salary and my passive income, it was nothing. I also called a lawyer to discuss protecting my assets. We were not married yet, but I wanted to make sure everything I had built remained mine and mine alone. Throughout all of this, Megan noticed nothing. She was too busy sneaking off to see Marcus, too preoccupied with her double life to realize that I was quietly dismantling ours. I played the part of the defeated fiancé perfectly. I was quiet, distant, seemingly resigned to my fate. She probably thought I was sulking or trying to figure out how to win her back. She had no idea I was counting down the days until my exit. I moved my most important possessions to a storage unit piece by piece. My valuable documents, my electronics, the few sentimental items that mattered to me, everything else could be replaced. When the 2 weeks were up, I was ready. The morning I left, I waited until Megan drove off to work. She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek as she headed out, completely oblivious to what was about to happen. I watched her car disappear around the corner and felt nothing. Within an hour, a moving truck pulled up. The movers I had hired were efficient and professional. They cleared out everything that was mine in less than 2 hours. The apartment looked strange, with half the furniture gone, empty spaces where my presence used to be. Before I left, I took one last look around. Then I walked over to the kitchen counter and placed the engagement ring exactly where she had left her phone that night. Next to it, I put a single sheet of paper. The note was short. "You said you have options. So do I. I hope Marcus makes you happy. Goodbye." I locked the door behind me, slid the key under the mat and drove away in my old Honda Accord. The car that she mocked so many times. The car that was fully paid off while her leased BMW ate up a chunk of her paycheck every month. That evening I was unpacking boxes in my new penthouse apartment when I imagined Megan coming home. I pictured her walking through the door, calling my name, slowly realizing that something was different. I imagined her finding the ring and the note, reading my words, finally understanding that her safety net had disappeared. What I learned later from mutual friends who could not resist sharing the drama painted an even more satisfying picture. Megan apparently stood in the empty apartment for almost an hour, just staring at the spaces where my things used to be. She called my phone over and over, only to discover that I had blocked her number. She tried reaching out to my mother, who politely but firmly declined to give her any information. She contacted every mutual friend she could think of, but I had already asked them to stay out of it. And then she called Marcus. According to what I heard, she showed up at his penthouse expecting comfort and commitment. She thought that with me out of the picture, Marcus would step up and be the man she wanted him to be. She was wrong. Marcus made it very clear that he was not interested in anything serious. He liked the excitement of their affair, the thrill of sneaking around, but a real relationship with responsibilities and expectations that was never part of his plan. Megan found herself alone. No fiancé, no boyfriend, just an empty apartment and a ring that no longer meant anything. A month passed. Then 2. I threw myself into my new job and found that I genuinely loved it. The work was challenging, the team was talented, and the compensation was better than I had ever imagined. I started exploring Austin again, discovering new restaurants and hiking trails and coffee shops that I never had time for before. One Saturday afternoon, I ran into Derek at a mutual friend's birthday party. Derek was one of the few people who knew both me and Megan well, and I could tell he was bursting with information. He told me that Megan had been asking about me constantly. She wanted to know where I was living, what I was doing, if I was seeing anyone new. Derek, not realizing it was supposed to be a secret, had mentioned that I had taken a new job as a director of engineering. He had also let slip completely by accident that I owned multiple rental properties around the city. I could only imagine how that information landed. Megan, who had spent months criticizing my lack of ambition, suddenly discovering that the man she discarded had been quietly building wealth the entire time. The man who drove an old Honda and lived in a modest apartment actually had more financial security than Marcus and his flashy Porsche ever would. 3 months after I left, Megan finally managed to track me down. She showed up at a coffee shop where I had become a regular, sliding into the seat across from me before I could react. She looked different, tired. The confidence that used to radiate from her seemed diminished, replaced by something that looked almost like desperation. "Ronnie," she started, "I made a terrible mistake." I set down my cup and waited. I was stupid and shallow, and I let myself get swept up in things that do not matter. Marcus was never going to be what you were to me. I know that now. She reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I should have seen what was right in front of me. You were building something real, something solid, and I was too blind to appreciate it. I pulled my hand back gently. "Megan," I said, "you were not wrong to want more from life. That is not your mistake. Your mistake was thinking that my value depended on what I chose to show the world. You looked at my car and my apartment and my clothes and decided that was all I was. You never asked about my investments or my properties or my plans for the future. You just assumed." She opened her mouth to respond, but I kept going. "You asked me if I thought I was your only option. I told you no, and I meant it, because I knew my own worth even if you could not see it. I did not need you to validate me. I did not need anyone to validate me." I stood up and pulled out my wallet, leaving enough cash on the table to cover both of our drinks. "I hope you find what you are looking for," I said, genuinely. "But it is not going to be me." I walked out of that coffee shop without looking back. I could feel her eyes on me as I left, but I did not turn around. That chapter was closed. The first few weeks after leaving Megan were not as triumphant as you might expect. Yes, I had taken control of my situation. Yes, I had proven my worth. But late at night in my new apartment that still felt too empty and too quiet, the pain found me. 4 years. 4 years of memories, of plans, of imagining a future together. All of it dissolved in an instant because I was not flashy enough, not impressive enough on the surface. I found myself replaying our conversations, wondering if I had missed warning signs, questioning whether I could have done something differently. But slowly, day by day, I started to heal. I reconnected with old friends who I had neglected while focusing on the relationship. I signed up for a gym near my new apartment and committed to going every morning before work. Physical exhaustion helped quiet the mental noise. I called my parents more often, listening to my father's quiet wisdom and my mother's gentle encouragement. I even took a solo trip to Colorado for a long weekend, just me, the mountains, and complete silence. I hiked trails until my legs burned and watched sunsets that made my problems feel small. By the time I drove back to Austin, something had shifted inside me. 6 months after the breakup, I met Samantha. She was nothing like Megan. Quiet, where Megan was. Loud, thoughtful, where Megan was impulsive. She worked as a third-grade teacher at an elementary school near my office. We met at a bookstore, both reaching for the same worn copy of a novel we had both read years ago and wanted to revisit. We started with coffee, then dinners, then long walks and longer conversations about everything and nothing. I told her about my past, about what happened with Megan, about my fears of making the same mistake again. She listened without judgment, and when I was finished, she said something I will never forget. The right person will never make you prove your worth to them. They will see it from the beginning and spend every day making sure you know they see it. We have been together for 8 months now. I am not rushing anything. I have learned that lesson. But for the first time in a long time, I feel genuinely hopeful about the future. Looking back on everything that happened, I realize the experience taught me something valuable. Your worth is not determined by what you show the world. It is not measured by your car or your apartment or the clothes you wear. It is defined by your character, your integrity, and how you treat the people around you. When someone asks if you think you are their only option, remember that the question reveals more about them than it does about you. They are telling you that they view relationships as transactions, as comparisons, as ladders to climb. The right response is exactly what I said. Nope, because you should never be someone's only option. You should be their clear choice. The person they want even when other doors are open. If they cannot see that, then walking away is not a loss. It is a liberation. Sometimes people laugh at you because they cannot see your strength. They mistake quietness for weakness, humility for lack of ambition, patience for inability. Let them laugh. Your actions will speak louder than their assumptions ever could. And sometimes the best way to prove you deserve more is to simply walk away without looking back. No arguments, no drama, no begging for them to see what they missed. Just quiet confidence and forward motion. If you have ever been made to feel like you were not enough, I hope my story reminds you of something important. Their blindness is not your burden. Their inability to recognize your value is not a reflection of what you are worth. It is a reflection of their own limitations. Move forward. Build in silence. Let your results announce themselves when the time is right. And remember, the people who truly matter will never need you to prove anything at all. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a situation where someone underestimated you and later regretted it? Or maybe you are going through something similar right now. Whatever your story is, drop it in the comments below. This community is here to support each other. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear it today. And if you are not already subscribed, join the family so you never miss another story like this one. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate every single one of you. Take care of yourselves, know your worth, and never let anyone make you feel like you are just an option. Until next time.